Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, and welcome to IT Live, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Joe Cook. We got Justin Wells. We got Ian Boyd. It's Thursday, so you got this trio here with you. Means we're going to go over some stuff Ian wrote today about Arch Manning and his ability to run the football, get his take on something, Justin, you and I talked about last night with the All-Akina team. And then we're going to go ahead and check out what the Longhorns' strength of schedule ranking is. Maybe their schedule difficulty is a better way to put it. But thank you for watching. Thank you to Academy for sponsoring. If you're here, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be here again later today. We got the deep dive coming. We've got On the Horn with James Hayden coming. So lots of stuff on a daily basis here. No off season. And of course, head to InsideTexas.com, sign up. You can get access for just $1 to start. So, Ian, I know with Texas leaving the Big 12, it was a little bit easier to ignore what may have been going on in far-flung locales such as Tempe and Tucson and Boulder and even Morgantown. But Neal Brown, who is West Virginia's head coach, joining Texas staff as an analyst, some sort of role, and the way he ran his offense could lead to some developments for Arch Manning if Steve Sarkisian were to use them in 2025.
Yeah. So if you didn't watch West Virginia for the last 2 years, and probably didn't unless you were tuning in for one of their for that one game where they beat Oklahoma, which is pretty satisfying. Then you would know that the last couple of years they've had a 5'10", 200-pound quarterback named Garrett Green. He was like a decent air raid passer, but he was shifty and tough. And so they ran like a ton of option schemes and a ton of like power schemes where he's like handing off or keeping the ball. And when he's running the ball, he's running off tackle down Main Street behind lead blockers. And we've seen Texas actually do that just a little bit with Arch Manning in some of those short yardage packages. And we've definitely seen him do some zone read a little bit. I think they could do some of both. I think Neal Brown could help in that. I don't know if Sark necessarily needs help with that, but theoretically Neal Brown could help him with that. And then there's also a question of just how much he'd even want to do that.
Before we get to the scheme part of it, let's go there, the volume part. And whenever people in the chat, on Inside Texas, on social media, they always bring the clamoring for maybe not running the quarterback, but for mobile quarterbacks and maybe some design runs. How quick are we to forget that Sam Ehlinger could not complete deep passes to save his life toward the middle and end portions of the 2019 and 2020 seasons because of the wear and tear that he took? And granted, that's a Tom Herman extreme, but Justin, hits rack up. And even if you are 6'4", 225 or 6'3", 230, which Manning and Ehlinger were at their playing weights, hits are hits, and it makes it tough to hit deep passes.
Look, Arch Manning didn't come to Texas to run the football. Let's be honest about it. Does he have that attribute to his game? Absolutely, because he's trying to become the most complete quarterback in college football and one day, hopefully in the NFL. But again, that's not his MO. His MO is winning, and he's going to do that with his arm. Now, his legs are going to help him. They're going to help the horns. They're going to get him out, and maybe in and out of bad plays, maybe extend plays in some instances. But I think we saw the 16-wheeler package, and I think fans just instantly thought, why isn't he playing more? Why don't you run him more? Run him more. Well, it's got to be. It can't be the scheme. It's just got to be a small part of it. It cannot be the end all be all. And I guarantee you, that kid starts taking some shots, he's going to hear it from mom and dad and the uncles and grandpa. Be cautious, be smart with that kind of stuff. There's a reason Peyton and Eli didn't run. There's a reason.
Well,
and I know their athleticism is different. I know And I know the competitors are all the same, but still, there's a reason because they made their mark with their arm. It's as simple as that. And so with Arch, I love the fact that he has that dynamic to his game. I think it's going to be very helpful over the next 2 seasons in Austin for the Horns, but it cannot be a staple, buddy. It better not. You cannot. These quarterbacks, every football player that's ever played has a hit number. You get a certain amount of hits, and then that's it. Everybody's number is different. Arch Manning is not trying to climb up that hit chart in college. That's something you want to do way into your NFL career. Just make sure it's not the most. It doesn't have to be that way. It's just something that's a nice little kick.
So, Ian, you got the numbers out. Hopefully, people can see this.
Yeah.
But
Ian's going to be like, make him Lamar Jackson.
So, Ellinger with 160. That was always in a 12 to 13, maybe a 14-game season. Vince Young, 152. Obviously, those two had design runs. Ewers had 140 rushes. Not very many of those were design runs at all. Maybe actually half. But then you go to
Sorry, let me pause you there. Ellinger was going 160 a year. Ewers hit 140, only counting all 3 seasons. Yeah, just to make sure no one misunderstands that.
So not a runner, not in multiple senses, even though he did get some touchdowns. But Garrett Green had about 10 per carry. And even with Ohio State, heck, in a pivotal play, have to have it play for the Buckeyes against Texas, they weren't afraid to use 6'4", 230 Will Howard. So it's an option there, but one that you feel like needs to be used in small doses or right amount of doses.
Very small. No, small doses.
If it were me, I would say, Arch, we're playing UTSA this week. Do not run. You don't need to show off your legs or whatever. We're not going to run you this week. Maybe 2 times. And when we play Georgia, prepare the ice bath, Arch.
Oh, God.
And I'll tell you what.
This season's going to be fun.
I'll tell you what. That's a good pitch for the NFL now, because the NFL wants guys to run the ball.
Do they?
Josh
Do they
Allen,
really?
Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott before he was destroyed.
No, Dak's never been a runner. You're right about all the first guys. Dak's never been a runner. Dak's more like Quinn Ewers. He's got the athleticism to run, but he's not a runner. No. But you're right on the first guys.
It's generous, I think, to our boy Quinn.
All right. It looks like the
Dak's not a runner at all.
Not anymore.
But, I see what you mean. There's a tendency to kind of go in that direction. I get it. And I mean, the number 1 quarterback in the draft so far, it looking like that's Cam Ward. And even though he's got elite throwing talent, he's also a runner, I think, in that sense, more so than any other of these quarterbacks in this draft. I'm with you, Ian, but, man, you've got to be minimal on it, man. These guys only get so many hits.
That's his problem.
So it's
the backup quarterback has 0 experience. I think you have to factor that in.
Go hard or go home, Justin.
It's unfortunately it's looking like
break the $250 million investment. Let's just bust it.
So it's looking like StreamYard is not cooperating again. I know we could see it, but it sounds like everybody else could not see the graphic on their screen on YouTube. I got it working on Twitter, so I wonder what the deal is. But alas, Ian, there's a few different schemes that Texas could use, and I wish we could get this. I'll try to find another way to see if I can get this to work. But there are a few different schemes available for Texas to try and be able to use Arch Manning's legs.
Yep. Is it about to pop or no?
No, I'm trying to figure it out. We're going to have to talk through it because even though we see it on the screen, apparently on the YouTube channel, it's not coming through.
Use your auditory skills, Ian, to give us the visual.
So something that they did a lot at West Virginia was quarterback power run schemes with an option. So they'd have like the quarterback would read the play and either hand off to like a guy running to the perimeter or keep the ball and run downhill behind lead blockers in like off tackle. And then they did that quite a bit. Ellinger, that was, kind of the name of the game with Ellinger too, in different fashions than West Virginia. Texas did that a little bit with Arch last year and the 16-wheeler or whatever we're calling that.
I was just making fun of when we make those names up for running quarterbacks.
That was probably the dumbest.
Yeah, it was definitely dumb.
That they did do some quarterback power stuff in that, and he was pretty good at it. They also, if you watch Isidore Newman, his running, if you watch their playoff games and you look at his season stats, you're like, it must have been like what I'm talking about. Because his season totals and rushes at Isidore Newman were really low. But when you watch him in a playoff game, he was running the ball 10, 15 times.
There was a reason for that too, Ian. Remember one of the games I went down there and saw, the defense was basically begging him to run. They were playing like a 3-high safety, and they were just saying, you get to run. That's one of the games I covered. He had like 100 yards rushing in that game. And I guarantee you in the playoffs, that's probably what they tried to weaponize with him.
Yeah. He was up for it.
Yeah. He's a competitor. He's going to run when he has to. It's simple as we can say what we want. Arch is going to run when it's required.
They're all like that. I mean, I remember Sam Ellinger talking about how Colt McCoy would come up to him and be like, hey, you got to be careful with these hits. And every running quarterback ever has told the story of an older quarterback coming up to him and being like, hey, you're going to want to be judicious with that. And the young quarterback's like, oh, yeah, I get it. And then they're in the game and the juices are flowing and they're like, F that. I got this. And they try to run somebody over.
Yeah.
Now, Texas, I'm sure, will run zone read stuff where the risk to the quarterback is not that great because he's just keeping the ball around the edge. He's not running downhill into linebackers. I'm sure Texas will do some of that. It would be interesting if they did a little quarterback power too. And that's the one where you really want to be careful and not rack up a lot of carries. But he'd be really effective at it. So when the time is right, I think that'd be something to look at.
So that's the stuff that you mentioned, variety of schemes inside and outside. But how might the rest of the offense benefit from this, especially if they're adding, you do it from an RPO sense, like you have an option on the inside, but then there's passing concepts to your outside available to you as well.
Well, you can create mega spread problems with that because if you turn the running back into a receiver and the quarterback into the running back, then it puts the linebackers in a really bad spot. Because, like, if you have, who's the fastest running back now? Let's just say yeah.
Let's say you have Jaden Blue. Let's just use it for
or Wisner, whatever. Wisner runs like a swing screen outside where all the receivers are, and then Manning is running power downhill. You run out of defenders to meet Texas at both points of attack. So you do that now. That's like a breakout against Georgia kind of scheme. That would be effective. And then I think if you just run Arch like 2 or 3 times a game most weeks, just to let people know it could happen.
Yes. The threat of it to me is a big thing.
You have a trump card on like third down or red zone, and you have something that makes them hesitate when they want to attack all your normal runs. Because it's a different deal with his speed. If you're just crashing against a normal inside zone run, but then it's like, hey, if I do that and I'm wrong, and Arch gets around the corner, he's gone. And he's going to go for like 70 like he did against UTSA. That just helps the running backs a ton.
So one of the things that we saw a lot when they would use that Arch package is, again, he'd be running it, and they did it in multiple ways, but they would never pass it with him. And I think that's what people were demanding that Steve Sarkisian used. It's like, you have Arch Manning, throw the football. And there were some dropbacks. I think in the SEC title game, he had a a drop back, but did not end up actually.
There was a package there for him to throw the ball. The opportunity, we guess, just didn't present itself. I thought it would happen at Ohio State. It just didn't happen.
So it's one of those things where this is going to present some new goal line opportunities. But one of the other things that we have to talk about.
The goal line and the short yardage, though.
We can't let this go like Colt McCoy again in 2006. I know they're different sizes. But man, y'all, we got to watch that.
It's an amazing trump card, but what Justin is saying, 160 carries is not what did Ellinger in so much. It's the fact that almost all of them were inside short yardage. And those you take different hits on those.
Yes.
Also, like Ellinger, Arch will take hits that don't show up in the rushing totals because he hangs in the pocket to throw the ball and takes the hit.
He does do that. You're right.
That's partly why Sark doesn't like running the quarterback, is because he does want his quarterbacks to hang in the pocket and even take a hit to get the throw off. And those hits are often worse than the running game hits.
Because you can't brace yourself at all.
Exactly. The hands, everything, the motion. We saw what happened to Carson Beck when he was hit. Trey Moore disassembled his shoulder.
Gave quarterback Tommy John. We'll keep going with this. We'll keep going with this in just a second, but first a word from Academy.
Days like this, the anticipation's half the fun. The call to adventure. Possibilities in every direction. Look at that. The stories you'll bring back, even the true ones. And already, you can't wait until next time. From first catch to biggest catch of the season, this is where it starts. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
One of the other things, Justin, with this is I think there's a good reason not to fully major in it because A, your backup quarterbacks, and B, your backup quarterbacks. Because what you may have athletically with Arch Manning, you don't have with Trey Owens and KJ Lacey. And then also what you have with a quarterback in Arch Manning, not the same with Trey Owens and KJ Lacey.
Yeah, it's you just got to be cautious and careful. You know, that's the thing. Arch is a gamer, so we can talk all we want, but when the game's on the line, that kid's going to do whatever it takes to score. And if that means running the ball, he's going to tuck it and run. That's just that, and that's what you want in your quarterback. You want that type. You just want to like Ian said, minimize the hits. Running inside is not for it's not for the weary. Like, you cannot make a career out of that. You know, Dak Prescott ran in college. He ran a lot. He was a big kid from Louisiana. I think he was a running back in high school. And so he was a big kid. When he got to the league, he figured it out. It's like, yeah, these hits aren't, this is for the birds. Same thing with Arch. You got to protect him. You got to look at the team as a whole. And also, you've got a lot of weapons out there. I get it. Extend plays, extend third downs. But there are so many weapons, and Arch is very aware of that. Arch knows exactly when he goes to the line what he's going to be looking at in his progressions and his options. And that's something that's going to be different with this team than it was last year. This is going to be a quarterback going through actual progressions. I think that's going to have a lot of help and meaning as well. But yeah, you got to, with the backup situation, you know, Trey Owens is going to really get his first taste of playing quarterback in 2025 when Texas has a big lead. And so that, to me, you've got to consider all those things. You know how it bit Texas in 2009? They ran Colt a little too much. They played him in games that he should have been sitting by the third and fourth quarter to kind of juice up the Heisman campaign and give him a chance. All the while, they forgot to develop a backup. And then that bit them in the butt in that game in January. And so, yeah, you got to think about long term. And again, I'm telling you, I know the Mannings are so hands off. It's unbelievable. You start running that kid a few too many times, Grandpa Archibald is going to make a phone call, and that's not going to last long, guys.
Ian, anything else to add? Anything we missed from going over your article?
Yeah. Joe Burrow, 2018, 128 carries, 7 rushing touchdowns. 2019, 115 carries in 15 games, 5 rushing touchdowns.
Is that optimal in your opinion?
I would aim for like 70 to 80 in the regular season for Arch.
They're very similar styles.
Try to stay down. I think he's a lot more powerful than Joe, though. Even
He's bigger. Yeah.
I'll try to stay down there, but in the playoffs, I would be, especially past the first round or two, I'd be like, okay, Arch, you got 10 days off in between games. We're going to run it up. Like 10, 15 if necessary.
Yeah.
Maybe 20 in a pitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, in regular.
It's all circumstantial. It depends on who they're playing, what's going down, But again, Arch I think Ian makes a good point. Arch has that mechanism in his brain. When you tell him, don't do this, don't do that. Once the bullets are flying, Arch is going to do whatever it takes. If it means run, that joker's going to run. And we've seen he has zero hesitation when it comes to that. When he tucks and goes, that joker's a big load.
We'll get to some questions in just a second, but I got the Pete Thamel. Don't worry, nothing big for Texas front. Dan Lanning signs a big extension through 2030, $11 million a year. So I don't know what school would have tried to come swipe him, but
I don't either.
Maybe USC when things go south with Lincoln Riley, but
yeah, I don't think Lanning would leave Eugene. The only school I think Lanning would leave Eugene for would be Alabama, and that would be a whole other scenario down the road.
Maybe Texas if Sark went pro.
That would, yeah. CDC would shoot his shot.
$11 million. He joins a company that previously I think was just Sark, Kirby, Dabo. Now Dan Lanning's up there.
Ohio State, maybe.
Yeah. Days up there.
Does Dan Lanning have any playoff wins?
I mean, he's got a Big Ten title. Which is it's what that's worth for you.
Yeah, Ohio State let him borrow it.
I think he was getting calls from the NFL. That may explain it.
He is still a hot commodity. He was one last year. He just had a team that went through the season basically number one in the country. He's going to get a handful of guys drafted. He had some guys look good at the combine. Dan Lanning's got it going really well up there. And so, yeah, they're just protecting their investment.
Just got to figure out quarterback. Well, before we get to
they get some options.
I know. We got some questions to go through. Horn 7, do you expect any big name transfer ins? Here's the thing. There's not just the portal doesn't just have transfers in there. And yes, it does. But like there's not just a 5-star sitting in the portal waiting to be grabbed. Like they have to go in there. The 4-stars have to go in there. The 3-stars have to go in there.
Joe's over there pounding the table.
But at the same time, Justin, like we know they still want to add somebody at defensive line. They may look at some offensive, not offensive line, but some offensive positions as well for some
wide receiver. Help. They will bring in if the right guy pops in there during the spring window, they are going to take another wide receiver. Chris Jackson has made that clear, according to sources, to players, parents, and recruits. Like that's the goal right now. They don't know who's going to pop into there. At this point last year, you didn't know that Bill Norton was going to be there, that Dominic Williams was going to be there, that Tia Savea was going to be there, or there was another one that we weren't as, or maybe it was Jermaine Lole. I can't remember.
The UCLA guy, but I can't. Toya, I think.
Toya, okay, that's right. And so that's what they're looking at right now. At defensive line, they would definitely bring in another guy if it's the right guy. I think Sark likes the squad they have right now going into 2025, but he's thinking like an NFL GM, churning the bottom of the roster, adding depth at every avenue and every position. And yes, D-line and wide receiver will bring in another guy if it's the right guy. Offensive line, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost a couple offensive linemen. If the right offensive lineman came in there, a guy with experience, maybe even an all-conference type at a different level, if they wouldn't look at that for depth. It'd be silly if they wouldn't. And I think that's why Sark is so good about what he does with this new era. He runs it like a GM. He's definitely going to try to churn the bottom of the roster every year. They do it every cycle. Yes, they're going to be looking for some guys in the transfer portal database, but those guys aren't just sitting in there. They're going to go through spring ball, and we'll know more about that once their spring windows start to close for whatever school they're at. You'll hear more and more names start to pop up towards the end of spring. That's when you need to know. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas has a new wide receiver and a new defensive tackle before June.
I guess my point is that there's not just starter wide receiver or starting defensive tackle in the portal.
Those come in December. Those are in early December.
Well, hold on. My point is, it's not just like ready-made wide receiver is there and ready-made defensive tackle is there. Dominic Williams has to get in the portal. Like Isaiah Bond has to get in the portal. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't jump in the portal. Those two did. Texas got one of them. But it's not like the portal. You never know what you're going to get from the portal. It's, kind of box of chocolates thing.
It's also remind them about running back. There's a new running back coach. If the right running back, and I know Ian has his eyes on one kid out of Morgantown, if the right running back were to hit the portal, they would bring him to Austin because they will make this roster better at every spot. That's just what they do.
I would take him if they really think Gibson is going to be the guy. If that's just
to get some experience.
If that's just to get Gibson engaged in the spring and then they're still going to recruit over him in the portal, then maybe there'd be some other guys.
Got this one from Chris Bennett. Didn't Arch hit 20 miles an hour last season?
Like
probably on that UTSA run. Apparently the Real Analytics Twitter account is a lot of fun, but some of their numbers can kind of be a little off.
Is that the one that had? Is that the one?
Isaiah Bond going 34 miles an hour.
Is that the one that projected Quinn to run a 4.59 or something?
Yeah. Like I know y'all will get this reference. It's like the scene in The Office where they're doing the wind sprints and then the car goes by. 30, 35.
Beat it, Oscar.
Oh, man. And then James Oliver, you made a good point when talking about Trey Owens and KJ Lacey. They need to know what they have. You can't just – I don't think Sark's going to try to, manufacture a Heisman campaign maybe like Mac Brown did in 2009. Lacey, It may be one of those things where he's got to wait his turn. But with Owens, just like they did with Malik Murphy during that season, they gave him some opportunities just so they could know what they had if and when Quinn went down. But I'm excited to see what may come of both those guys' careers. All right, Ian, what we did last night is Justin and I made an all Akina defensive secondary. Go back and watch the Wednesday night live. Make sure that you see what Justin, RT, and I were able to do.
Mainly what Justin did. Just forget Curtis Brown. I wore that one last night.
Yeah, we had a East Texas guy. Forget an East Texas guy.
I was only naming off 6 or 7 other East Texas guys on this team. It's like, dang, Curtis Brown. Dang it.
All right, Ian. How do you want to go, Ian? Do you have a 5 you want to draft, or do you want to hear what our picks were first?
I have a 5, but I want to hear y'all's first.
Okay. Justin had at cornerback Nathan Vasher and Aaron Ross. Okay. At safety had Earl Thomas and Michael Griffin. Yeah. And then he put Michael Huff at nickel.
Yeah. Okay.
RT had Aaron Williams and Nathan Vasher, Michael Griffin at nickel, and then Earl Thomas and Huff. I had Jammer and Ross at corner, Huff and Thomas at safety, and I put Kenny Vaccaro at nickel. So I'm curious what your 5-some was.
I should have gone first because y'all took the wind out of my sails.
I thought you were going to. You were trying to get over on somebody. That's on you.
Well, I was curious. Maybe I missed something and I'd like make a quick scratch or something.
We were trying to think of how you were going to fit in Haynes and Gideon and
we just knew Dylan Haynes was going to pop up on this thing somehow, some way.
Somehow put Chris Boyd in there. And
the only two-time all-conference corner.
But Chris Boyd wouldn't have counted.
Okay, here's what I got.
Technically, Akina actually did interact with Chris, but that was when he was a lot younger.
Okay. Cornerback, I got Quentin Jammer and Nathan Vasher. Drew was saying that Rod Babers is one of his Akina's all-time favorites for like footwork, but I love Rod. Shout out Rod. But
Vasher, everyone loves Rod.
Vasher picked off so many passes.
The record.
I think he's a little small, so I got big Quentin Jammer on the other side. I put Huff at nickel like Justin did because they played a 4-3. He was basically like the nickel half the time. And then at safety, I put Dylan Haynes and Blake Gideon. No, I put Earl Thomas at free safety, and I put Kenny Vaccaro at strong safety.
Okay.
Which is, I cheated with Huff and Vaccaro.
Because you would let them roll.
I cheated with Huff too because he could play all three spots. Smartest guy that I've ever seen in that secondary.
And Vaccaro played mostly nickel, but he played back at safety sometimes too. So it's not like it'd be a problem.
I didn't feel like I was like trying to moneyball that one. I'm looking and I'm like, this guy was a 15th overall pick. We all have the Cal hurdle in our minds of what he was able to do. So and nickel was a little bit different in the mid 2000s. Kind of by the time Vaccaro was playing the position, it looked a little bit more like what you see against some modern offenses. So I feel like he would get the responsibility of the position more. So I'm glad I wasn't out on an island with Vaccaro.
Huff would drop down in the slot. Like he would drop down and play Steve Smith in the Rose Bowl. So he was basically a nickel. He would play nickel probably if he were on the team today.
Or all those times he had to climb that tight end. What was that, Fred Davis? That big USC tight end?
Oh, yeah.
He had a hog time.
Winston, maybe? No.
Winston was a lineman.
Winston was a lineman. Or no, he's thinking of Winston, maybe Winston Watkins, but no, it wasn't him.
Well, the list of guys who got put into the draft from Joey Akina, I think the list goes Quentin Jammer, Rod Babers, Nathan Vasher, Michael Huff, Cedric Griffin, Michael Griffin, Aaron Ross, Terrell Brown, Earl Thomas, Aaron Williams, Curtis Brown, Shockey Brown, Kenny Vaccaro, and then we decided that Akina gets some credit for Mike L. Thompson and Quandre Diggs as well. So those are just the draft picks. That doesn't include some of the other
Adrian Phillips, Terrell Brown. Both those guys played in the NFL for 10 plus years, didn't get drafted. Carrington Bindum. And then I tell you, the best, one of the most upside guys that didn't happen was Dorian McCullough in the early 2000s. That kid was a freak.
You notice when you look at the list,
Dominic Byrd. Blake got it. It's Dominic Byrd.
We think of Akina and we think man coverage across the board. You look at that list and it's like the list at safety is unbelievable. The list at corner is fine. It's good. It's not like going to rank amongst like LSU or Ohio State, but at safety, it's like multiple all-pro dudes.
Yeah, Earl Thomas may be the best deep third safety ever.
Yeah. And Quandre Diggs ended up being really freaking good at that too. And I hated leaving Michael Griffin off, honestly. And I was tempted to put Diggs too. So safety was brutal.
I kept Michael Griffin, whereas y'all took Vaccaro. I couldn't let go. I couldn't let go of Griffin. You talk about a guy that could play that old nickel spot where it was kind of like a linebacker assignment, gap assignment type stuff, set the edge. Michael Griffin could do that, man. Woo! He played so much bigger than he was.
Michael Griffin with Huff at safety and Diggs at nickel was another one that I considered.
Oh yeah, cooking with gas, baby.
Yeah, a lot of good ones. All right. Next thing we have to talk about is some strength of schedule. Our good friend Bill Connolly came out the other day with some projected SP Plus strength of schedule rankings. I'm going to try something here. All right. It looks good on the screen. Chat, can you tell me if it's there? Because this is a file. It looks like it's there on my view.
I can see it.
Okay. Perfect. Yes. Technical difficulties overcome. So Bill Connolly every year comes out with his SP Plus rankings. And one of the things that he uses is strength of schedule. And one of the things that he says is the strength of schedule rating, which you see as SOS, is the projected win percentage of an average top 5 team could expect against your schedule. So the point here, Ian, is that Oklahoma and Florida will need to be top 5 caliber just to go 9-3. A lot of SEC teams there, but the number 1 team obviously has a tall mountain to climb this year up in Norman.
That
Remember that thing I sent you last week, Ian, from the Oklahoma guys hanging out with SEC Unfiltered?
Yeah.
That's all I can think about right now. That's all. I'm thinking this is the best scenario. Okay, what's the best case scenario? Well, go undefeated. That's the best case scenario.
That was such a garbage analysis because it was like, if you ask me,
What'd you expect?
if you ask me in any given season, hey, Texas versus this team, it's the best case scenario for that game. You give me any Texas team, and I'm like, well, in the best case scenario, they'll win.
Exactly.
Right?
It's yeah.
But it's meaningless. It's completely meaningless. That guy
there's no analytical part to it at all.
It's a trap, and that guy just
That
dove into
guy
it.
looked like his shoulders blew a bubble.
His belly flopped right into it.
Can you imagine him doing a cannonball? Anyway,
well, Texas is actually kind of high on this.
Yeah, Texans ended up, I think, number 12. There it is.
I wonder if Oklahoma and Florida, how beaten down they'll be when Texas plays them. I think they get Texas early enough where that doesn't help Texas a ton.
So I've got the OU schedule up until the Texas game is manageable-ish, but then it gets real tough. So here's Oklahoma up to the Red River Shootout. Illinois State, who I don't think is Division I or FBS. Michigan at home.
Game so they can scout them for more transfers.
Michigan at home, which is going to be tough. At Temple, who's going to stink. I don't know why they're playing that game there. Auburn at home. They get a bye week. Then they play Kent State, one of the worst teams in FBS. Went 0-12 this past year. Play them at home the week before they play Texas.
What a joke.
So they could very, very reasonably run into the Cotton Bowl 4-1. I think they did that this past year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the schedule they have after Kent State. Texas in the Cotton Bowl, at South Carolina, Ole Miss, at Tennessee, bye, at Alabama, Missouri, LSU.
You talk about the tale of two. Let me tell you what's going to happen with this season with Oklahoma. They're going to win a few early games, and they go, "Oh, Brett Venables is the man. He's the guy. Arbuckle is the guy. Venables is calling the defense now. So Oklahoma is back, and then they're going to go into conference play, and it is going to twist off on them sideways.
They're gonna.
You can hold that thought. I got to hit the ad break real quick. Got to show.
Dang, we were just about to get into our groove.
I know. I got to do this. Can't let it get past us because Andre the Lawyer helps us out a lot.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
All right, Ian, go ahead.
Brent Venables is going to go to that AT&T guy and talk about, what are we trying to talk contract extension after Kent State? That,
Yes.
one. We only lost to Auburn by 1 point. So
With Jackson Arnold.
yeah, with that's a really good.
Is Mikey Hawkins still the quarterback, or did they do something in the portal?
But Tower.
Oh yeah, he'll be a good one. They'll be better. They'll be better with him. They just won't have a guy. They just won't have anybody to block for him.
The running back, quarterback, and offensive line for Oklahoma look pretty meaningfully improved from last year.
Yes, absolutely.
Receiver and tight end looks as bad or maybe worse.
God.
At the very best, it's an unknown at this point, because they totally revamped that room.
Yeah, but there's film on all these guys because they're all like FCS transfers, and you go watch
like Division III NAIA guys.
They're not
church rec league.
It's guys that were like good in FCS, not great. You know,
the risk.
Well, you know it translates, Ian. That translates to SEC, all SEC. I mean, that's just math.
Does it translate? That's tough, man. They got one FCS offensive tackle, and I pulled up one of his games, and he was like 6'6", 315. And I was like, okay. I pull it up. He engages with a guy, and the FCS end drives him into the backfield on a run. And I was like, this guy's never going to play for Oklahoma. What are they doing? I don't know what they're doing.
It's going to be a tough hill to climb. Let's do Florida real quick, because their schedule looks pretty similar to Oklahoma's in a certain extent. And also Texas gets them right before they play Oklahoma, I believe. Yeah, 1 week in the first weekend of October. So while Oklahoma's playing Kent State, Texas goes to the Swamp. So here's what Florida has to do. Long Island University, which I think is an FCS team.
What?
South Florida at home.
Rivalry.
LSU at Tiger Stadium.
Ooh.
Miami at Hard Rock, and then their bye week.
Mm.
Now Miami's going to be good. They may not be.
Miami's going to be Miami-ish.
Right. Especially when you have Dum Dum leading the strategic part of the team and Mario Cristobal. But
that's Carson Beck. I was about to say, man, you're being harsh.
No. Carson Beck's pretty good. It's Mario Cristobal who I feel like I can
pretty
do better
good,
with strategically. But that's a team that it could be anywhere from 2-2 to 4-0 entering that Texas game.
But the question there is, our guy got off the hot seat. Lagway was better than expected. No, he kept his job. That guy was fired before that season even started. It felt like. How long does he have? Like, what if Florida twists sideways, and then it's like, you know what? We should have done this 6 months ago, 9 months ago. Buyer's remorse. Because they decided to save that buyout money for NIL money, and they have been killing it in NIL to finish the 2025 cycle, and also doing really well with foundational guys in 2026 from an NIL standpoint. That's the biggest question to me. If this goes sideways, how much longer do they hang on? Does hang on?
Here's what they get after those first 4 games. They have Texas in the Swamp, at Kyle Field, Mississippi State in the Swamp, off week, Georgia and Jacksonville, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, and then Florida State.
That seems like a lot easier schedule than what Oklahoma has.
It is, because a lot of those teams, we don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty.
And the tough ones are at home.
Correct. So they are playing the same difficult opponents as they had last year. And getting Miami again is going to be tough. Florida State being crappy probably helps them out a good bit. But that's still a team in Florida that's got a tough schedule, and it starts really with Texas is in the middle of that run, but they do get a bye week before they play Texas.
It's the cumulative deal because there's a lot of likely wins, but very few sure thing wins on that schedule.
I'm with you there. And then to put this back towards the Texas conversation, look, let me see. I can't get it my mouse on the screen, but you can see that Texas is number 12 in this strength of schedule ranking. Texas plays 8 SEC games. 7 of their opponents are ranked above them as having more difficult schedule. And the only opponent that isn't right above them is Georgia. They're one spot below them at 13. And I took this to mean, what this does mean, Texas can't play Texas. Like, Texas is a top 10 team in SP plus, and not being able to put a top 10 team on your schedule is going to automatically reduce your strength of schedule. Meanwhile, Oklahoma, Florida, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Texas A&M, all those teams have Texas on their schedule, which kind of explains a little bit as to why the Longhorns rank behind all those teams in strength of schedule.
And Texas also has the number 21 team on here on their schedule.
Right, and they're number 1 in SP plus too. So that's going to make it tough. The out of conference schedule leaves a lot to be desired. I think all those teams are ranked like 90th or above. The remaining out of conference schedule, like, it's not like those teams are going to make the difficulty easier. But one of the reasons I feel like you see Texas behind so many different teams on their schedule is just because they can't play themselves, which, Georgia suffered.
It's funny to hear you say it.
I know. Any others from this list?
Texas can play Texas on college football NCAA 2025.
I know, it's fun putting Isaiah.
It's not fun.
Huh?
We did it one time. It's so confusing. Too many same numbered kids.
One team's wearing orange, the other team's wearing white.
Yeah, we did our own spring game on NCAA 25.
Is my math right that 9 out of the top 10 are SEC teams?
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Actually, it's 13 out of the first 14.
Yeah.
And 15 out of the first 17.
So the Ohio State thing also, I feel like, speaks to the, you can't play yourself. If Ohio, look, the teams that have Ohio State on their schedule, I think include, I don't know Big Ten scheduling formats. So I'm not sure if USC, UCLA, all those teams have Ohio State on there. My guess is that they probably do in some form or fashion. Either that or they have Oregon on there. And that's why, Ohio State's ranked where it's at. Oregon's ranked where it's at in the 30s.
Look where Michigan is ranked. 30. I was just thinking Ohio State. They have to go to Ann Arbor. They'll probably lose again from some fluke reason because they're basically owned by the Wolverines. You see them down there at 30 at 38. Woo, man. They must have the bottom end of the Big Ten schedule this year.
Oh, they only have to play Oklahoma.
Michigan also has to play at Nebraska. At USC. They have to play at Sparty, but they get Ohio State at home.
Caleb Downs said explicitly during the season last year that he thought Ohio State struggled with the fact that they only had to get up like 3 or 4 times a year, whereas at Alabama they were tested
every week. That's an excellent point.
I don't know if he's right because they won the championship. I don't know if he's right that was bad for Ohio State, but I don't doubt him that he's right.
I don't disagree that it was bad for them. It worked out well, obviously. But I think it's a very valid point. In the Big Ten, you can take a nap for 3 weeks. In the SEC, Michigan, you can take a nap any Saturday of the season.
Michigan, basically, their season turned into, can you beat Penn State? Can you sneak pass? Can you sleepwalk past Rutgers? And can you beat Ohio State? That national title season, that's all they had to do. And they almost botch it at Maryland or something like that?
I think he's right.
Kind of.
It wasn't that close. It was kind of like Texas Vanderbilt last year.
Oh.
Texas, Kentucky, maybe.
Texas Vanderbilt wasn't as close as people think.
It was more
Kobe
like
Black's pick six should have stand. Bring it back. Bring back the Kobe Black pick six. Where were the bottles on the field for that?
Oh man. So the SEC slate, according to SP Plus for Texas, you got number 4 Georgia, number 12 Texas A&M, number 17 Florida, number 20 Oklahoma, number 35 Arkansas, number 40 Kentucky, number 54 Vanderbilt, number 65 Mississippi State. Average ranking is 31. Oh yeah, you have to get the number 1 team in Ohio State. And as we've kind of seen, Justin, sometimes your schedule gets rewarded, but wins against the schedule gets rewarded most.
Right. What are you asking me?
Just trying to see, do any of those rankings also stand out? Like Oklahoma at 20 in this SP Plus, they recruit well. They have these good rankings. They bring in semi-productive transfers comparatively, but then they just go and botch their season and go 5-7 and 6-7.
I think ultimately Oklahoma, in this instance, Oklahoma just was as prepared as Texas was to go into the SEC. Oklahoma was the opposite. They were the least prepared for that jump, for that move. And that's why it was so ugly. And it gets overshadowed by the fluke win over Alabama in Norman in November. But it's all relative. Like Ian said, what was it? 15 of the top 17 are in the top 17 are from the SEC. Like I'm not one of these SEC biased homer guys. I try to call it like we see it, but guys, this conference is going to be better in 2025. The quarterback play is going to be better in 2025. It's just going to be salty, man. I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Have y'all looked at some of the big time non-conference matchups that SEC teams have to play start the year?
Nope.
All right. The ones that, when I was writing this yesterday, the ones that I saw as being relevant, we've got in week 1, of course, Texas goes to Ohio State. Week 1 has Alabama at Florida State in a new revamped Doak Campbell Stadium. And those teams are not very far apart, just directionally, probably like 3 or 4 hours, maybe.
Really?
Yeah. Tallahassee's in the Panhandle, right below Bama.
I didn't realize that.
We're below Georgia, probably, right?
This is a fun one. Auburn at Baylor. LSU at Clemson. And then a Beamer Bowl, South Carolina.
Auburn at Baylor. Can we call that the Jarrett Stidham Bowl?
Two Baptist institutions, maybe.
Is Auburn a Baptist institution?
That was kind of a joke.
No, I know. Hugh Freeze is, yeah. I'm going to leave that alone.
LSU at Clemson could be a whole lot of fun, though.
Good.
I think Clemson's going to be good.
Clemson's good.
They've got some really good weapons on offense. They've got some really good linebackers on that defense. Like, I think Clemson's going to be pretty salty. The ACC is going to be fun to figure out this year because I don't know if SMU has another run in them like they did. Miami's going to be Miami-ish. Florida State will be better, but how much? I can't believe they let that young freshman quarterback take off. Man, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But Clemson, I actually think Clemson's going to be pretty good next year or this year.
You're forgetting about Chapel Bill. They get TCU on Labor Day night at home.
TCU just hired a couple more former Bryles guys.
Corey Coleman, TCU coach Corey Coleman.
And Norwood.
That still makes me
They
laugh.
also brought on Randy Clements, right?
Yeah. They're getting the gang back together.
I'm telling you, Clements was the road dog, according to Art. So yeah, they're getting the gang. That's one of those where Sonny's just like, if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go out swinging.
I'm gonna go out with all these people, the people that pay my salary absolutely despise.
Yeah, Chapel Bill, that's good stuff.
I'm not the first to say that, so I'm surprised you aren't.
Who would they end up doing at quarterback?
Say it again.
They still
Chapel Bill.
They brought in a transfer, I think, North Oh no, well, they also still have Max Johnson on the team.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still
That ain't
around.
Max ain't it.
Who is it? Oh my god.
Yeah, that's so fitting that Bill Belichick is not going to have a quarterback when it's pretty much a tried and true statement that when Bill Belichick doesn't have a quarterback, his team loses all the time.
The quarterback is the one that he brought in. That's a recruit. It's Bryce Baker.
That's the guy. Remember, we met Bryce. I met Bryce at the at the On3 Elite Series in Nashville. He was the commit there, and I think I guess they kept him. Because Mac was fired after signing day, right?
No, they told Mac he was done well before signing day.
Okay, because they said something to keep Baker in the mix, and it wasn't Belichick. They had something there.
They brought in a ton of guys from.
Bryce is a big kid.
Who is it?
Remember, I told you I was like, this kid looks like Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, Jackson Miles has it. Ryan Brown, who I'm guessing took over for Hudson Card at Purdue. That's who it is. Okay. I guess he's competing with Max Johnson. Should be interesting to watch. Hey, it's a good way to spend Monday night on Labor Day. I'll take that. And then
that's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. Not so much in real life, but on social media.
Yeah. The other interesting non-conference games for SEC teams, of course, you got Texas and Ohio State. I'm going to lump week 2 and week 3 together. Arizona State plays at Mississippi State.
That could be tricky.
That could be. I mean, Arizona State almost lost to Texas State last year in San Marcos. So I'm just going from Tempe to Starkville.
I love Sam Levitt, but like without losing Scatabo is going to hurt them. I think they kind of had caught Genie in a bottle last year. But I love Kenny Dillingham. I think he's the right guy. I think he's tremendous.
Let me see if I feel like Arizona State's one of those teams that always does well in the portal. We know that very well from watching them play. The Longhorns. Let me see if they picked up anybody.
They took chances on a lot of guys that I think people just kind of wrote off, and they wind up being productive.
This is going to sound very niche, but it's worth it. Arizona State got Army's really good running back, Kanye Udo, and that guy was a really good runner. So he's probably not going to be Scatabo, but remember they picked up Scatabo from Sacramento State before Brennan Marion took that job. So they're pretty smart with how they handle the portal.
I think they're also in a conference that's winnable. You get the right quarterback and the right mixture of transfer portal guys and maybe a few developmental dudes and guys that just bought in, and you can win the Big 12.
They got I think their line is mostly back. It's like all 5th and 6th year kids.
They were solid last year, if I remember correctly.
They were smart on defense, and they have that receiver back now who Texas didn't even have to face.
Yeah.
Jordan Tyson.
He was really good.
Played basketball at Texas.
That game I think Texas could have lost that game if Jordan Tyson played.
Well,
they almost lost it anyway.
Yeah, they almost lost it anyway, but
exactly. They convert 4th and 13 to win that game.
Oh man, I think I've said this before.
Maybe if you just make a field goal in regulation, you don't even have to go to that.
Well,
I when it got to 4th and 13, and granted, Texas and Sark talked about how long the season was. There was a part of me that was looking at that 4th and 13. I'm like, oh, I finally get to sleep in my own bed for a few weeks. And then Matthew Golden catches it, and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, so.
I think that was everyone's response. Hey, the season's over. No, it's not. Yeah. All right. Turn it, run it back.
The other big non-conference stuff, Wisconsin at Alabama. Luke Fickell maybe trying to make a last stand.
2 yards in a cloud of dust bowl.
Even though Luke Fickell got an extension of some sort.
Yeah, that was unique. I saw that. It was almost like people were trying to hire him.
He's not a bad coach. I just don't think he's done well at Wisconsin. And then the other one is Texas A&M at Notre Dame in week 3 this time.
Yeah, that's not going to go well for A&M.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I think
Notre Dame's going to be good.
I think A&M's going to be a lot better this year, but
I do too.
But Notre Dame is also going to be.
Look, you get Le'Veon Moss. They're getting Le'Veon Moss back, and I really do think that is a big factor for A&M. I think that's if Moss is the running back at the end of the year against Texas last year, I think that's a different game. He is, to me, maybe the best returning running back in the state of Texas for 2025. Like, you got him, you got Bryson Washington at Baylor, you got CJ and Trey, obviously, in Austin. I'm telling you, like, Moss is a guy. I think he would have been a load to bring down last year. He's going to help those guys. I'm still not so much sold on Marcel Reed. I think Reed's a good quarterback that can make plays, but when better competition kind of rises up, I think he's pretty average. But they're going to be better simply because the receivers, they've actually got a few receivers now. They've got a couple receivers that have experience and ability. The O-line, I think, returns for the most part.
Yeah.
And so they do lose some key guys on defense, but I'm just talking about the offensive side because that's the side that had a lot of problems last year. Colin Klein is not a very popular person in College Station.
The one thing I will say, though, is that they do have a full offseason of Marcel Reed. They're not doing the Weidman.
And Elko's a great coach. Like, Elko's they're going to get to a point where they'll get those wins just because they're going to be coached up and developed.
But they don't have to fool around and be like, all right, Weidman, you're the guy. Oh, all right, Marcel, your turn.
What's crazy is Weidman's gonna flourish in Houston, dude. Him and Willie Fritz, they're gonna open that thing up. I can't wait to see that kid do well. He's such a good player, such a good dude.
That game was kind of easy for Texas last year.
It was.
If not for a couple bad goal line turnovers by Ewers that gets like 30-3 going into the fourth or whatever.
The score did not indicate how much of a blowout it actually was. The box score was the biggest tell in that game.
Yeah.
And it was ugly.
And that fact that's not going to be lost to history. Like, I think there are some times where, heck, here's a good example. The Arkansas basketball game ended up 78-70 earlier this year. That game was not as close as an 8-point game indicates. Arkansas beat the dog out of Texas. There's going to be no revisionist history from College Station about 17-7. I think everybody knows, especially with everything that game was building up to it. The fact that
didn't they have like the third or fourth most biggest crowd in the history of College Station?
Something.
It was a beautiful night. Joe and I enjoyed it. It was nice.
Yeah, it was quite the time out there. So, cultural
part of Colin Simmons trying to fight some of the A&M coaches at the end of the game. I thought that was awesome.
Oh man! And you'd think with a very nice stadium, they do more than pack you into a room about this size, but alas, money can't buy.
I'm just fired up. I had a seat at the table.
It was a lot of fun. And anything else, gentlemen? Ian, what's coming up on the deep dive in about an hour and a half?
We've got a very offensive line centric deep dive. We're still working through we got 100 questions from our great readers over at Inside Texas. Subscribe now for what do you get? If you pay $1 and you get
access for $1
like 5 years.
Start out, and then we know you're going to want to stick around.
There you go. So our great readers gave us a bunch of questions, and I curated some mostly offensive line focused questions for this week. Justin, Joe, what are y'all's starting 5 if you had to guess right now for next year?
If I had to guess right now,
yeah,
Trevor Gooseby, Neto Umeozulu, Cole Hudson, DJ Campbell, Brandon Baker.
I think that's the best scenario.
I know Connor Robertson's getting some buzz. I think Cole Hudson has to be your center. I don't think you can go into Arch Manning's first year of starting with Connor Robertson as your starting center. Not in the SEC.
What about Neto?
At center?
No, just you think he's going to hold on to that?
Yes, I do. I mean, he can be. I mean, Hayden Connor obviously consistently great for years. But Paul makes an excellent point with Connor. He's more of a screener than he is a blocker. And Neto's actually one of the meaner, more athletic of that bunch. And so I think if he can just be a semblance of that, they're going to be just fine.
We'll come back at noon for
But
that
hey,
one. So
check out the deep dive for me and Boyd going up here pretty quick. Come over to Inside Texas and hang out. We're going to put out a master visitor list for recruiting. We're going to start in March and we're going to end in June. And there are a ton of names just to kind of give recruiting fans an idea of who's going to be in and out of Austin over the next 3 months. These next 3 months are going to dictate a lot of this 2026 class. There's going to be a lot of fun conversation. Come jump in that thread. We've been building, Charlie and I have been building this list out over the last day or two. We're going to have that posted here pretty quick. Come over there and talk about it because, look, 2026 recruiting is going to be fun, guys. Texas is going to take – you thought Sark didn't push before, buddy. They're going to take their time on this one, man, especially with the new coaches coming in. We've seen some big boards kind of shifting a little bit, moving. There's some new guys kind of moving up, moving down. Come hang out with us and let's talk a little bit of recruiting in March because it's the open. It's not an open period now, but what's the period called, Joe?
recruits can visit. I always mix it up. Recruits
I do too.
can visit. Coaches can't go visit.
Right. Recruits can hit the field, and they're going to. I think Texas, the first guy they're going to have on campus probably will be in mid-March, maybe March 22nd. But recruiting never sleeps. Just like the deep dive always goes deep, recruiting never sleeps. Come see us.
Justin, thank you. Ian, thank you. Thank you for watching. Again, make sure you head to Inside Texas, like the video, and thank you to Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Chris Bennett had a – I'm so sorry. Chris Bennett, were there speakers on the Aggie sideline? Yes. Were they blasting? Yes. Because I was wondering what the heck were giant speakers blasting out distorted noise doing on the sideline?
I got to do devil's advocate because I've seen this at other places before.
Notre Dame did that too.
They point them to the fans. Texas does it too. Because all these places have like single source sound, like from the top of the Godzillatron. That's where the sound comes out. So they weren't blasting it at the field. At least I didn't see it that way. They blast it to the fans.
Yeah.
They're still blasting it. And Texas does it too. So thank you for watching. Thank you to Academy Sports and Outdoors for presenting IT Live here on this Thursday morning. And we'll see you next time.